This is how to pack for flashpacking. Holy shit, that was good.
Yeah, that was so good.
So what is flashpacking? Flashpacking is super simple. It's like bikepacking, but instead of carrying your camping gear, your sleeping bag, and all of that stuff, you just bring a credit card with you. You stay in hotels. It's nice and cozy every night. So, differences between flashpacking and bikepacking.
The only difference is the accommodation. You don't have to carry your accommodation on your bicycle if you're flashpacking. The credit card does the work instead of your legs hauling a tent or a bivvy and a sleeping mat and all of those things that you need if you're going to go camping.
So, as you can see from the bikes behind us, you get to pack a lot lighter without carrying all the big, heavy camping gear or anything like that.
Big, heavy camping gear?
Small, heavy camping gear. You carry, all you need is a light setup, just your clothes, and yeah, you can get out on the road and adventure anywhere, as long as you want.
So long as there's accommodation
So
at
as
the
long
end.
as there's accommodation at the end.
Yeah, so the benefit is, I guess, because you don't have to carry as much, maybe you can travel a little quicker. You get a shower at the end of the day. You don't have to be quite so careful. So imagine you get soaking wet out there on your bike ride. That can be a bit exciting if you're then camping and it's cold. So it's a bit more forgiving going flashpacking. So for some people, it's a nice way to get started. They can go out on a little trip on their bike with the assurance that they actually have somewhere to sleep at the end of the day. They can dry out, nice. Usually you're staying somewhere where there's a meal or a beverage or both at the end. So that's, I guess, one of the key benefits. And you don't have to have all the equipment to get started. You can just strap a few bags on your bike and you're kind of ready to go.
I guess it's a much cheaper entry into the bikepacking and adventure cycling world. Without having to spend a heap of money on a warm camping setup. You can just get on out there. Yeah, get on out there, get cozy in a hotel every night and just ride your bike as long as you want.
For sure. One of the things I really like about it is you get to stay in some of these
Quirky
very quirky
pubs.
Australian pubs. And for me, the cheaper the accommodation, the better. So that has me staying in some pretty wild rooms. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but some of them sort of reek. I feel like I'm on holiday already. This is amazing.
There you go.
Well, the locals, they tend to get pretty excited about a bike rider arriving. The more remote the pub, the more interested the people become. And I think there's something about travelling by bike that makes you approachable. If you're rocking up somewhere in a car, you're not as likely to have these sorts of interactions. So I think
you can speak for yourself. You ride your bike in normal clothes. When
Absolutely.
I turn up in the full gear of Lycra, they are like, what the hell is this guy up to? But they are very friendly and they ask you a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And then normally get quite astonished as to how far you've ridden your bike that day.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of fun.
It's very fun, yeah.
And if you're really lucky, they'll offer to buy you a beer, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. But I think also maybe as a woman travelling by bike, I get the attention of other local women who are very curious, and maybe they love the idea of going somewhere, roaming the countryside and being free.
And being free.
Yeah.
Free and out there by bike.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a nice way to connect with communities that you wouldn't otherwise. It's funny, I was riding through, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell stories, Bob, but...
Here we go.
Here we go. I was riding home, I think this is around Christmas time, home to Adelaide through a random little town I hadn't ridden through before, and there were some folks out the front of the shop on deck chairs. And they were giving me a cheer and a wave, so I pulled over, and they were telling me about this fella called Adrian that had ridden through a few months ago, and it turns out I know that guy.
Yeah,
so they were like, do all these bike riders know each other out there?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, but I guess what it said to me, though, is it's kind of memorable for people in these little towns if they have people riding through by bike. It's not something that happens every day. It's novel and exciting.
We're out there.
We're out there, roaming the nation.
Connecting villages.
Yeah.
Weird cycling routes.
That's right. And I think if you're flashpacking, you're I'm more likely to go through towns. If I'm, aiming for a comm, if I'm travelling a bit lighter, I'll make sure I'm hitting resupply more often. I've noticed there's a bit of a difference in the way that our bikes are packed.
There definitely
There is no one right way of doing this, and I'm really intrigued to know what's in the bags. What are your essentials?
So, essentials for flashpacking. much like every other ride, you need to have all the spares you could possibly need. A lot of things happen out there on the trails. So along with all your classics, like a couple of tubes, plenty of plugs, tire levers, pump, gas canister, some patches, chain tool. Don't want to forget that one. You only get stuck out there once. And then, on top of that, the essential for flashbacking normally is a spare pair of clothes for the pub. If you really want to treat yourself, you can bring a pair of slides or a pair of Birks if you don't want to just be clip-clopping your way around. But on top of that, things you might need, battery packs for lights if you're going to be riding late. I don't actually know what else I've got in there. My all-important wallet to pay for all of my accommodation needs. But other than...
Layers, Ollie. What sort of... I'm assuming you got...
Oh, yeah. Well, it's in Australia. It's always warm here. So I actually just have a T-shirt and a pair of shorts. So...
This is the man in the beanie.
Yeah. It's 15 degrees outside. But so I think clothes-wise, spare pair of socks, pair of shorts or trousers, depending on the conditions. A T-shirt, probably long sleeve because it gets cold at night. And then I think I've just got a puffer jacket in there. And that's pretty much me covered. But judging by April here normally takes a hell of a lot more spares than I do. So I'll be looking for her for when I get stuck out in a hedge somewhere for some sort of weird mechanical issue.
I hope that happens. I find these things very exciting.
But why don't you tell us, what did I miss in that list?
Oh, a hanger, spare hanger. That's the front of mind. Yeah. I always carry weird stuff like bolts for cleats, things that would be really annoying if you don't have them and you need them, but things that are kind of small. Things like that. I've got something like a tyre boot. I carry spare sealant on every trip. I've got a multi-tool and a little kind of like a Swiss Army knife sort of situation that has pliers in it. I find that useful. A spare tubeless valve. The thing is, there's no right answer here, but I think it's just a matter of how risk averse you are. I'm very risk averse, so I just carry all this extra stuff, and it's peace of mind for me anyway. And I always carry lots of sealant. Lots of chain lube. So if it gets wet or muddy,
never forget the rag.
Never forget it. Yeah, that's right. And rain gear. Always got rain gear.
Just seeing as well, April here has got dynamo set up with a full set of lights. I'm going for the approach of get to the pub before it gets dark. So I don't currently have lights on my bike, but I would highly recommend you probably should do that.
Yeah, lights. Seeing is important. It does get quite dark out there, and it seems to be. It's almost a cliche that things take longer than you expect on these trips. So if you've got everything you need, you've got lights that you can see by. That's just good insurance. Mechanicals can happen, or maybe you just start chatting to some locals in a town on the way, and then you arrive later at your
there
accom.
it is. You're calling the pub asking to leave your dinner on the doorstep because
sure.
you're getting in at midnight.
Exactly. The other thing, I'm big on gloves too. I don't wear gloves generally when I'm riding, but I hate having cold hands, so I've usually got real thick gloves in there in my little kit. And my dynamo, for people that don't know, a dynamo is a hub right here in the front wheel that generates electricity while I'm riding.
Holy
hell, isn't this amazing? Just digest that piece of information for a moment. So this powers my lights during the night, like my front light is on, but during the day I push a little switch and then I can charge things like power banks or whatever.
A never-ending bike ride.
Self-sufficient for power. I am off-grid ready, which isn't essential for flashpacking, but it is still fun.
That beats my tiny little battery pack, which charges my Wahoo once.
Fair.
I think what else I've got in here.
The other thing I always have in my bag, and I think this is kind of rare when I've talked to other bike riders, I've got a little red dry bag full of first aid things.
I never have a first aid kit with me.
It's amazing how often it comes in handy, and I think I'm often riding with people that maybe haven't ridden that much and are kind of challenging themselves, and it's amazing how often the first aid kit is required, and not just for Band-Aids or whatever. It's more often, to be honest, the odd anti-inflammatory, the odd Panadol might come in handy.
I also found out what a snake kit is really recently.
Yeah,
which
snake bandage.
They exist here in Australia.
That's right, yeah. So I guess the first aid kit is something that has grown over time. I've usually got electrolytes in there too, travelling in the heat of Australia. Saves people cramping, things like that. But the other little kit that you've got too, I think, is a little bag of electronics, also in a dry. Is it in a dry bag?
It hell is. Otherwise, it goes real bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, at the moment now, if you're booking hotels, you want to make sure that they still exist and you can book them day on day. So little bag of electronics that you can kind of rely on either via a dynamo or a power bank is pretty handy. All the cables you need to keep your phone, your Wahoo or navigational device or potentially spot tracker charged is super important.
Spare Axis battery.
Spare Axis batteries,
electronic
as many of those as you can possibly carry, along with a charger. Obviously, the batteries themselves last a pretty long time, but depending on the weather conditions, you don't want to get caught short without your gears. Along with that, normally a camera, and that's about it. I think.
I've always got backup lights, even though I've got a dynamo.
You are
always
so prepared.
So prepared.
Always make sure your power bank can charge your devices before you leave for these trips, because certain power banks are not powerful enough to charge lights, and you only find that out once, and it's pretty bad.
I'd also say if it's a really unusual cable that would ever, so like exposure lights are a classic for this, I'd almost have 2 cables.
Just in case.
Just in case you lose one gets. I've had this happen
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Always test your electronics before you go on a bike ride, and do not get stuck in the bush like I did with no lights.
Community service announcement.
It really is.
So Ollie, picture this. We're out in the wilds of Victoria. The sun is setting and the pub is going to close, and all of a sudden you hear the of a puncture that just won't seal. No matter how much sealant is spraying out, that
everywhere.
hole just keeps on being open. How are you going to fix it, Ollie?
So here at Curve, we recommend very highly that you've got your bike set up tubeless. It normally, 9 times out of 10, makes fixing a flat in this situation really easy with one of these kind of little jazzy situations. Either I'm a fan of this and April hates it more than anything, but this Dynaplug here, for me, it's super easy. You just pull over the side of the road, find the hole, jab it in, and in theory, it stays sealed without having lost that much air, and you just carry on riding.
So a little brass chip with a little strip attached.
So super simple, you just stab it straight in. These are the other options. I know
this is my favorite.
This is your favorite. Yeah. Probably a bit sturdier in terms of their fixing power, but these are active. They're known as bacon strips.
Yeah,
that's what I've
there's a little fork in here,
and then
a little bacon strip.
You put a little bit of rubber into the thing, and you just stab it into the tire, and then the sealant does its job.
Exactly.
These are a bit more longer lasting, a bit more hardy. Generally repair a bigger hole. The Dynaplug here is probably a bit faster if you're really running late to the pub. But it might not be there the next day. Who knows? Whatever
gets you to the pub on time, Ollie.